Are you a homeowner who's been kicking tires on possibly refinancing your current mortgage? Maybe you need to take advantage of the equity that's in your home and pull out a little bit of cash. Or maybe you're in the market for purchasing a home and you're just not quite sure if the time is right. I'm Jason Currier with the Sierra Lodestar, and I had the opportunity to chat with Angelina Curtin, who is a mortgage specialist in the Mother Lode. Angelina Curtin is not only a mortgage specialist in the Mother Lode, but she also owns Chit Chat Sonora and My Sierra Post, so she's really connected with the local community. And actually, that's where our conversation started, was on Angelina's passion project, Chit Chat Sonora and My Sierra Post, before we started talking about the local real estate market. And Angelina has some really great advice. If you're one that is maybe on the fence and you're not quite sure if it's your time to refinance, or again, if you're maybe on the fence on purchasing, Angelina's got some really great advice for those of you who maybe be one of those folks that aren't quite sure yet. So here's that conversation now, and if you could, please don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you.
We're a little early in the project, so I've got, well, not really early. It's been years of planning and building, but
Is this your pet project?
It really is. It's my community
Yeah.
service project. I started the Chit Chat Sonora group almost 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Oh, goodness.
And so it evolved into quite the place to be.
Right.
It's where community connections are made. And I think for a really healthy, vibrant community, you have to have that sense of, knowing your neighbors and togetherness and working towards common goals. And so in that space, we see a lot of that, and we're really big on promoting local business. Initially, I wanted to start the website because we had, I would say more so with the at-risk members of the community, like the elderly, having financial loss as a result of advertising that was happening within the group. That was from people who were unlicensed contractors or handyman doing license work. So in the home service business sector, it was more of a concern. And so I thought to myself, because just the foundation of who I am as a human, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't let this happen in my space. How do I fix this? It's very hard for me to vet out. We do 15,000 posts every 20 days. So we're doing 15,000 posts and comments. I'm sorry. So, but it's still so much content. It's like
a lot going on. Yeah.
How do I filter that? And so the solution that I came up with was, okay, I need to start an external website. I need to have these businesses registering with the website. We're going to know their phone numbers, their email addresses, their business information. And it's not just going to be some fly-by-night guy that jumps into my group, deletes his Facebook profile. Have more of a verification process. And so we started funneling that way. So we have close to 200 businesses registered now on the website.
Wow.
The directory
all in Tuolumne County, or
I think I've got some from Mariposa, maybe a few from Mariposa, a few from Calaveras. We're really trying to get the word out. We're in that beginning grow where Chit Chat Sonora is almost a household name in Tuolumne County. I mean, everybody pretty much knows who we are on the social media side.
Right.
And now we're just filtering all of those businesses to the website. The cool thing about the website is that we're able to house all of local events as well. I have a self-submitted form. So you just go onto the website and it takes 45 seconds of effort, and your event is listed in a really cool way on the website.
Nice. Excellent.
It's a place that you can see everything all at once.
So it's a hub for just what's generally going around the area.
Yeah, and also we have a community news section, but it's not really focused on who got into a car accident today or anything downerish. So it's just really about community bonds and cool, things that come up that affect the community. We had a big road project here on Tuolumne Road that was a hot nightmare, and we wrote about that. Got all of our locals information on who to contact for their broken windshield, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's going to be cool because our businesses, we're going to start opening it up for them to start doing like some contributor stuff as well, like experts in different areas. And the platform itself, between the social and the website, it just has room for something like what you're doing.
Right.
And greater visibility for someone who's interested in supporting community. That's what I'm looking to support from my. So
excellent. Very cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that's why when you reached out to me, I was like, what are you reaching out to me about? Because I got some stuff going on.
I just figured you could be a guest on the Lodestar, and we could talk about mortgages and the market and that sort of thing. But it sounds like you've got something even cooler going on.
Right. Yeah. Well, so somebody has to pay the bills for the website, and that somebody is me. And I have a job. And I'm actually really happy with my mortgage business, and I've built it up quite a bit. I would love to support more of the Calaveras side, as far as bringing some really exciting and fun options to the table.
Right. That's very cool.
It's a different world.
Yeah. I grew up in the mortgage business. I got into the business when I was going to Columbia, and I was splitting between Columbia and MJC. And I ended up with this mortgage job. I started out literally opening up a phone book and calling people just on the weekends kind of thing. And the senior loan officer at the time, he swooped me up and made me his assistant. And
nice.
Next thing I knew, I was dropping out of school and making good money. And I'd spent about a decade in the mortgage business. And,
wow, that's great. Yeah. I mean, it's quite the business for sure.
It is. Yeah. I went back to it here about 3 years ago and got my NMLS license and went through all that and did all that. And
so with DRE, you have to have a real estate license as well as a mortgage license.
Oh, see, I've had that too. I don't currently have my mortgage license though. So
yeah, it's tough. I mean, to hold both licenses, you're held to like this much higher responsibility. You have to understand and learn real estate law as well as understand and learn mortgage law.
Right. So, which when I first got into the business back in my 20s, you had to have your real estate license. They didn't have NMLS didn't exist. It was you went and got your mortgage license, or you went and got your real estate license.
Right.
I mean, you could do either. You could sell real estate, or you could do loans off the same license.
Yeah. So now we have 2 different licensing sectors. It's a lot, and I have to hold both. So I've got the DRE and NMLS to broker. But when I opened my shop, I was actively trying to hire, but it's so hard to find people who are willing to go and do that licensing process.
Right.
And also, mortgage isn't a guaranteed income. The only guarantee is that you're going to work really hard.
Yeah, you can guarantee that. It might pay off, it might not.
You'll work your butt off, and you'll probably do well if you have a really good work ethic. But it's a scary thing to kind of step into when you go, okay, I've got this potential salary job, or I'm going to do this thing. I only get paid if I close a loan. So it's risky business, but
it is. Yeah, it's good business when it's good, but it can be really bad when it's not so good.
Yeah, last year was not a great year.
Yeah, I'd imagine that. Yeah. Are you finding that I know that when we chatted just briefly, you had said that so far it's been a pretty good January, huh?
Oh, yeah. So, and I guess that's relative to who's stuck with the business, throughout the downturn, right?
Right.
What you'll notice is that like quality of service will go down, or reduction in staffs start happening, and the skeleton crew left at, say, a mortgage bank or a direct lender, they're not performing as well as they were prior because their systems really weren't built for like independent mortgage health, right? So from a brokering perspective, we're built that way. Like my business is built to run through me and into the teams that I build around myself. And I can organize my teams however I like. And we are very successful with that model because it doesn't matter what happens in the market. We're, most of the people that I surround myself with are the processors and, like my broker that's above me. And so, those teams get paid when I get paid. And I don't have them on like a W-2 income. So we don't have that like, oh gosh, we really need to thin out right now. And then we suffer, and then, suffer in that service aspect. So during the downturn, we definitely kept it going. And
that's great that you're still doing it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild year, I think.
Yeah, you think so? Really? Yeah,
for sure.
Election years historically are usually a little on the wild side, aren't they?
Yes, and we are coming out. I wouldn't even really say we're coming out. I mean, we are in the middle of what in some schools of thought would call a recession. They're not calling it a recession, but it's a recession with the, I mean, come on.
It's being very recession-y.
Feeling recession-y.
Right.
And the cost of living has gone up tremendously with just regular food cost and energy cost. When you look at the PG&E costs, it's like, oh my gosh. And the rents. So for people out there renting, they're not catching many breaks either, because we've had such an increase in PG&E costs and then the fire insurance and all those things kind of factor in, and so I mean, I see it a ton through my social media channels too. People are just bummed out, super bummed out on the housing cost.
Well, the market, like price wise, I've noticed just in looking at my own home that prices have gone down some, but there hasn't been the major drop that a lot of folks figured was coming.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sad part. I think that there were people who are blessed to be positioned to buy last year, even when the rates were higher. And while, there's that initial, oh gosh, I don't want to be stuck in this really high rate and it's a terrible time, that it was actually the best time, because that's when you're going to get the house for a lot less money. And look, you could have refied 6 months later. I mean, I'm doing refis now for folks who bought last year.
Oh, is that right? Really? It's already getting to be, the markets are improving to that point where you can do that.
Sure can. And the cool thing is, some of my clients, there's not a lot of cost involved with a refinance. So we're refinancing now. We're going to go through all of these planned drops over the year, and then come end of the year, Q4 or Q1 next year, we'll probably look at jumping in and doing one more refi. But we're saving them a great amount of money in interest as well over the next year. So yeah, everybody's different, but it's refi time for sure. And it'll be even more refi time, I'm sure, in 3 months and in 6 months. And yeah.
I remember having cut my teeth early on in the mortgage business. That was always the thing, was the difference between being a mortgage loan officer and, say, a realtor. Was, as a realtor, you can kind of tend to do this as the market goes, where as a loan officer, you're not quite as subject to that up and down with the market, because you've got the refis when prices are up, and when prices go down, you've got purchases.
Correct. Yeah. And we're not actually, like you said, you're licensed in several states. I keep my licensing in California, but I'm not limited to doing loans where I live. And
Right.
with the real estate, when you're a realtor, for the most part, I mean, you really are limited to where you live. And you want a local realtor who knows the market in that area, who knows the challenges that are going to potentially come up in our mountain town, right? One of the big things that I see is, a lot of pushback when it comes to, well, going to use my cousin who lives in Hayward as my realtor when they're buying, say, an Arnold or Twainhart. And it's just a bad idea. And not
whether
to
you're buying or selling your home. I've
whether
seen
you're
that there's
buying
some,
or selling. And it's not even about, okay, sure, maybe it can be a little bit about supporting your local community, because that's really important. You want to keep the kids who go to soccer in our local towns and those families, financially, okay. But the really big reason is that, when you're in Hayward, you're not necessarily dealing with really complex septic systems and well systems. And even from a loan perspective, so I can cross over and do a loan in flood zones or even just areas that just have no issues, because I'm in one of the hardest places to do loans. So, we're having to write our pre-qualifications with much higher insurance costs built in ahead of time.
How is that affecting you?
Yeah, so it's not, I will tell you how it'll affect somebody who doesn't know or understand how Cal Fair Plan and the insurance up here works. It's going to affect them badly, because if you are, let's just say my clients, I'm in paradise, la la land. I have no idea that I'm about to get hit with, 250, 300, 350 per month in insurance cost. When we're in this escrow, I estimated that they were going to pay the average 120. Right. If I didn't know. And so when you estimate that, when you're building that into the pre-quals and you're sending people out to shop, what happens is that insurance quote comes back. And if you don't have enough room in your debt to income ratio, you don't have a loan.
You don't have a loan anymore. Right. Which that's part of the process. And a lot of people don't really quite grasp that right there, is that this isn't a situation where you purchase the home and then you get your insurance. This is something that you're doing through the process, and it's along with your mortgage.
Correct.
In the process. So if, like you said, if you're expecting $150 in taxes and insurance, and you get your fire insurance bill back and it's $300, like you say, you no longer have a loan.
No. Yeah. So usually we calculate property taxes close to 1%, maybe a smidge higher, because they sure do add a lot of stuff onto property taxes. I really like to stay on the safe side. The worst thing you could possibly do to buyers is say, hey, you're good to go at 400. They're so excited, especially if it's a first-time home buyer, but really any buyer. If I'm upgrading my home, I've got the pre-approval in hand, that's money in the bank. I'm so excited. I'm shopping. We finally found the house we love. We've put in all this effort into looking. We've made an offer. It's been accepted. And your loan officer didn't do a good enough job. And now your whole deal blew up.
Now everything's gone.
Now everything you built up is no longer a thing. And so that's where, like, I could never do that to somebody, and I would never, it's like, no, we need to know our numbers. We need to guess in advance. And that's why you'll notice, like, a lot of realtors, when their buyers come to them and they say, oh yeah, we've got a pre-qual, It's from Rocket Mortgage, maybe even a national lender or somebody from some other area. That's when the realtors start having little mini panic attacks too, because they're like, well, please
what
call
am I
me.
dealing with here? Right. Are we talking apples and you've got oranges? Like what?
Right. Yeah, because
that makes a lot of sense.
It can bomb a deal. I mean,
I'm sure.
I'm not saying it always does. Certainly not. There's lots of educated loan officers out there who are capable of doing what we do here. I would just say that if they're not familiar with the market, it's not something I'd want to rest my
right. Well, and you made a great point, I think, with like the bigger lenders like Rocket Mortgage, for example. Yeah, they could shoot you through an approval letter because you put things into your app, but how accurate is that?
Right. Well, and here's the fun part. I actually shopped Rocket Mortgage. So if my clients, because as a broker, we have access to dozens of lenders, and we shop the wholesale channel, and we all know the difference between wholesale and retail. So it's always better to get a wholesale rate. And yeah, if you really liked Rocket for some reason, I have a cool website. I'm your girl. I'll go in there. I'll shop it. We'll go through Rocket. I don't think even people understand the difference between brokering and direct lending. And so that's just like a whole other
right.
point, where when you go to a direct lender, it's like I always say it's like going to like a grocery store versus a mall, right? So you go into one store, you only get the products in that one store. And then when you go to the mall, well, there's 35 or 50 different places to shop in. And so we do all that shopping for our clients. We figure out, and, sometimes there's lenders out there that have not such a fun process in underwriting, or they might have a slightly better rate.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to torture you through your loan process.
Right.
So, and I talk to my clients about that. It's like, hey, we could probably get like a ton, you're going to save $6 a month on your mortgage.
Is it really worth that extra?
Want me to take you there, or we can go this way, and these guys are awesome. They're going to just get us through quickly and easily. And so it's just nice to have those options for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So as somebody who, if you give advice to somebody that is either looking to purchase, or maybe they're kicking the tires on refinancing or not. Let's start with purchases. What advice would you give an individual watching this that maybe they have no clue where to even start? Maybe they have some money saved up. Maybe they've been working on building their credit up. Maybe they haven't even done that, but they don't even know where to start. And they want to purchase a home. They're in a position where they feel like they're getting either close or they're there and they're ready to purchase a home, but they don't really know where to start. What kind of advice do you have for folks like that?
So I always tell buyers, and even in the refi process or anything like that. So if I wanted to go to a hotel near Disneyland, my kids love Disneyland. So let's just say I wanted to travel there. There's no way I'm just getting in my car and driving willy-nilly, right?
Right.
I'm going to get my map and I'm going to map my way to my goal. And my ultimate goal is Disneyland. So I feel like it's very much the same when you're looking at a house purchase process. You need to kind of reach out to experts. You start with the loan, because the realtors can't really help you until you have your pre-qualification. There's just what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, we can show you all these houses, but we really don't know how much of a house you can buy. So you're very
like going and shopping for a car, and you just walk on the line. Well, I don't know if I can afford a Mercedes or a Volkswagen.
Or I don't know what's in my bank account right now, but let's give it a shot.
I don't know.
Let's see. Let's let the swipe and see how it goes.
Right. They don't even know where. They don't know where to even start in terms of showing you.
Yeah, and sometimes the clients will go to the realtor first, and then the realtor will refer them back to the lender anyway. So really, that's just the way that that it all kind of goes down anyway. So if the buyer goes first to the realtor is going to say, "Oh, well, talk to my preferred, mortgage person," and then they get the process started, because the first thing you want to do is get a pre-approval. And also, like, I notice like a lot of people freak out credit, and we can go all the way down to a 580 credit score on an FHA loan.
Oh, is that right?
So you don't have to have perfect credit to buy a house.
Right.
You got to have some money saved. But actually, we just got a hold of a new down payment assistance program for the FHA program. It's called the Empower program. It's directly through one of the lenders that I work with. And they're paying the entire 3.5% down.
Wow.
For the client. There's no income restriction. It's a pretty dreamy deal.
Wow.
Definitely, when I look at the stats and everything, because my brain is all numbers, it's an amazing opportunity. It's definitely for somebody who probably has a decent pre-approval, has a good DTI. Maybe they wanted to put some of that extra money into fixing up the house. Right. Of course, there's still closing costs on the purchase, but the other thing that they're allowing is up to a 6% seller credit.
Nice. So you can even take care of that.
If your agent is super savvy and can, take a look at the overall offer, and, maybe there's some room in the value. Maybe it's not at the top of the market as far as purchase price. They can go up a little bit on the offer and then ask for some of that credit back. Or there's lots of different ways to negotiate. But I think these days it's super important to just go the extra mile to help keep our local residents in housing as well. Right. So for our first time home buyers and, folks that are trying to move out of renting and own their own home here, they're working members of the community. And then we get lots of people coming up from other areas too. And so our demographics are definitely changing and growing. I can tell you that.
And a lot of that shifted during COVID, right?
Sure did.
People are now remote workers, they're realizing that they don't have to live in the Bay Area to work in the Bay Area.
Yeah. And we have something very special and magical up here.
Yes, we do. That we do.
So, I can see the draw. And I think this year is just going to get a little bit crazy for sure. Yeah. Again, because the rates are coming down. Last year, everybody was on the fence. So I'm going to wait for the market to crash. I'm going to wait for the housing prices to go down, all those things. And really, guys, I mean, we don't have the crystal ball. It just doesn't exist. So
do you think that some people were looking at the market and thinking that the same thing happened like back in 2008 was going to happen again, and we're going to see all these foreclosures and there's going to be this new market of lower priced homes that some people, do you think, are there a lot of folks that are kind of sitting on that fence and waiting for that to happen still? Or
Sure. Yeah. And when you look at the state of our economy, it's kind of easy to maybe guess that that's what's happening, but you have to dig in and look at the layers as to what happened in 2008. So in 2008, the mortgage industry was wildly unregulated. We were doing, and I'm not saying we, because I was actually doing real estate sales, where I was working in a real estate office, and I've actually been a licensed realtor for 10 years, and I've held that license for 10 years, and so back then it was wild, and they were doing like stated income loans. So basically I could go to you and say, hey, write me a letter about how much money you make, and then we turn it into the bank, and boom, you're moving into your dream house. And so obviously you can see how that could create a huge collapse, because a lot of these loans they were getting into were high risk loans. So interest only loans, loans that really could, have balloon payments, or just wild, horrid type
Right. Right.
scenarios. So, and I can tell you from my experience firsthand, they beat us down with laws now. I mean, my poor borrowers,
Your regulations have regulations.
yeah, I mean, when we're underwriting, we're really getting the information, we are set to a standard. And so there's not a lot of bad loans out there. The things that will generally cause a housing crash is, tons of foreclosures. And that giant influx of foreclosures in 2008 was very much related to the mortgage products that were being utilized. So we have much safer loans. I mean, I can tell you, I'm not putting anybody in a house they, can't afford necessarily. Of course, we can't guess what happens in the
Nobody,
future.
right? Like you said, they don't have a crystal ball, so
There's no crystal ball, but the goal is that they keep the house and they stay in the house.
Right. Right.
But
And with it being the biggest investment you're probably going to make, and it's a long-term investment, again, you don't have that crystal ball. You can't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great point that you make too, because it is the biggest investment. I always joke with my clients, unless you're going to go buy a yacht,
Right.
home, right? Buying a home is the most important and exciting, and there's just so much writing on it. Your team is so important, who you're working with throughout that transaction. You don't want to have a bad taste in your mouth when you're buying your home. And so, thoroughly interview realtors when you're getting ready to go into the process. Like, even if your friend is a realtor, maybe they're not even a good realtor, not to be, maybe they're the best realtor.
Right.
You're not going to know unless you sit down and come from a consumer perspective and interview that person. And hey, what's your availability? Like, if I saw a house, like, and, do you have anybody that you work with that could show me the house if you weren't available? Setting expectations. I always feel like the guy in the middle, because I'm doing the money and my realtors are out on the field doing, all the hard work, showing the homes and stuff. And you want to see that cohesiveness where, your mortgage professionals on it, you've got a solid pre-approval, your realtors got your back, they're not pushing you into something, you're feeling really comfortable. All those things really matter.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, it's like we said, it's a big deal. It's the biggest investment you're likely going to make, and you need to take it seriously. Yeah, you need to act accordingly.
Yeah, and if there's problems, communication. I'm one of those people who I love my clients, and their goals are my goals. And so, being able to have that open line of communication, text me if you need me. There's no question that's dumb. There's, I don't care what time you text me, because, people are working. I'm working with the work class. So I can't really turn off my phones at 5:00 every day.
Because you're off.
Yeah, because I would like to not work anymore. No, that's really not how it works. I end up doing loan consults at 5:30, 6:00, 7:00. That's
probably
totally
a lot later.
Yeah. And then on the weekends, that's when real estate happens, right? So my agents are reaching out like, hey, we're about to put in an offer. I've got some really great technology systems that I've built into my business over the years, which is cool. Like, my agents can go in and pull their pre-qualification letters if they need to, and tailor them to the address and stuff like that. I've got video stuff for my clients to kind of walk them through the process, so they can peek me on their lunch break and see what I'm saying about what's happening with their loan right then. So that's pretty cool. But
very cool.
Yeah.
So for folks that are interested in working with you, how do they find you?
So hopefully I'm everywhere, but the quickest way to get me is to call my phone number, and that's 209-768-2961. On social media, my mortgage page is Angelina Marie Curtin. And of course, I own the Chit Chat Sonora group as well. So I've got all my mortgage stuff going through there, and I'm admin. So it's really hard to miss me.
Gotcha.
I'm also on Google. So if you look up Angelina Curtin Mortgage Specialist in Sonora, or if you look up Sonora loans or mortgage, I'm ranked pretty much at the close to the top.
Gotcha.
You know, they rotate us around, but I've got tons of great reviews on there, and then you can catch me on my website through that. So that's how
What's
they
that
find
website
me.
again?
Oh my gosh, you know these mortgage websites, it's like freaking legacy home mortgage dot 1003 application.
Gotcha. Right.
I actually got a marketing call today from a guy who's like, I'm gonna build you like your own mortgage website, because you know usually we just do our websites through our brokers, and we have really strict regulation on how we market.
I
So
would imagine. Yeah.
I've just got my, you know, my portal, which is a really robust, secure portal where we take in the applications. And he's like, no, you need like a Angelina Loans website. I'm like, I guess you're right.
Gotcha. So work in progress.
Work in progress, just more projects to do, I guess.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Very cool. Well, we are about 30 seconds away from running out of time here.
Okay.
So thank you very much for joining me.
Of
I
course.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Again, folks, if you're on the fence and you're thinking about maybe refinancing, maybe purchasing, go ahead and give Angelina a call and she'll take you the rest of the way.
Awesome. I'll shoot you my links to put in the comments.
There you go. There you go. Now you're talking.
And reach out to me for sure. I'd love to get more of what you're doing and support more of Calaveras County through our projects as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. Excellent.
It'll be fun. Okay.